So I found these at 7-Eleven, and never seen them before. Guys, I tore into this bag like something fierce, okay? Because I couldn't wait. They legitimately taste like Skittles, and I don't know how they did it, because it's just such a conflicting thing. Because when you think of a Skittle, you think of, oh, it's gonna be hard coating, right? It's like chewy but crunchy, you know? And these are just gummies, but they taste just like a freaking Skittle. Like the insides of it got liquefied and put in a taffy puller and made into little dots, if that makes any sense. Anyway, that's beside the point. Well, kind of a taste the rainbow mention. Cute little plug. Anyway, but no, we've all heard taste the rainbow. I mean, those of us that, you know, tend to go to like pride parades and things like that. Me, I'm one of those people. But yeah, I was just thinking about how just being an anxious person my entire life, and also knowing I was bi my entire life, and how those two things have like built me to be the person that I am now, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense. Just that kind of thing. I don't know. I've been thinking about it, and I think there's things that we may not consider internalized homophobia until much, much, much later, until these new terms started coming out. I mean, to be honest with you, like, I was born in the 90s. I had my first panic attack when I was in, like, 1st grade, and, you know, my teachers just thought I was being difficult or clingy to my mom or whatever it was, but genuinely I thought I was dying, and I was like, I remember being like, what was it, 6 years old, and my heart was beating out of my chest, and I couldn't breathe, and I was freaking out, and they consider that being a excuse me, too many Skittles gummies, they considered that being a difficult child. They didn't consider that I might be having a panic attack, because that just wasn't a thing for kids. They just had, you know, there was like autism and ADHD, and that was it. That was like the only two neurodivergent things that were diagnosed in that age group that I know of at my age. Well, circa that era, you know what I mean, when I was that age. So, God, I'm making myself sound hella old. I was born in 94, in case you were wondering. Anyway, just what that does to a child, and then also, like, when you get to those pubescent years, that kind of thing, where it actually does become a possibility of, like, dating and that kind of thing. You start to dabble with those things, and your hormones start going crazy, and you don't know what to do with yourself. That's just something, I think it shapes us more than we want to believe sometimes. I think the world, how we perceive the world and the world perceives us, and how we exist side by side in and around it and each other, like, it's not as deep, but it's deeper than people think, if that makes sense. It's a gray area. But for me, yeah, the internalized hatred that I felt, you know, whether it be from abandonment from a parent that was supposed to be there, or, well, supposed to, I say supposed to, I mean, they're single parents all the time, but, you know, that other half of my should have been parental units, the other half not working out several times and that sort of thing, like my biological father not being around, and then also, you know, my brother's father being being there and then leaving, that kind of thing, that was rejection enough. But then to be this little tiny human person who's not really a human person yet, and you notice that you're the only person that thinks, like, or thinks to yourself, oh, I'm gonna grow up, and, you know, this thing that kids keep talking about, growing up and getting married and having kids and having a house and all this stuff that we're supposed to do because we're conditioned to do it. That's a whole other thing. Especially as a little girl, you know, you're conditioned, no, you want the white picket fence, the matching dishes, the kids, the husband, the cars, blah, 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 you know, that's what you're supposed to want. Okay, so for me, like, my fantasy as a kindergartner was I was gonna marry my best friend, Catherine, and we were going to not take care of baby dolls, but take care of our real babies that we were somehow gonna have together, because I didn't understand biology, or I was a child. Anyway, I mean, I knew people had a mom and a dad, but I didn't understand why nobody thought, like, hey, what if you want to marry your best friend and that friend happens to also be a girl? I didn't know the logistics of all of it. I didn't know how it worked. I just knew that I was the weird one out because nobody else had ever said anything like that around me, and I didn't want to risk being the weird one, right? I was already a really weird child. Panic attacks and things like that aside, I was just a strange child. I was always into books. I was always into, you know, things that I could do by myself. Even though I do have, you know, like a younger brother that I grew up with, who's 4 years younger than me, I was very much content being around adults or being around, you know, myself. Just being alone. I was okay with that. You know, I think it saved me the social anxiety that school brought me and that sort of thing, because I was bullied pretty relentlessly, but it obviously wasn't, I mean, it didn't become for my sexuality until later, till I started presenting a certain type of way, you know, like, there's a certain type of way, like, certain types of things that you'll wear or say or do, and people start calling you things like a dyke and all this other stuff, and it's just like, okay, cute, that's funny, you know, but why is, like, it's so absurd thinking about it now because it hasn't happened for so long, but for God's sake, like, it still swims around in there. Well, no, I take that back. I did want button-ups at the thrift store, and my mom did make mention that I was dressing like a dyke, you know, so, but whatever that means. I don't care. Maybe I'm sending my bat signal. Okay, like, hey, there's gotta be a way. It's gotta be a way. I just, it's just kind of stupid anyway. They're clothes, like, it doesn't matter. But of course, you know, her being Gen X and me being, you know, a later born millennial, that's still a thing. Anyway, so yeah, I went through the name calling, I went through the bullying, I went through the parents separating me and members of the same, you know, the same gender, because same gender, same sex, because, you know, those two things were the same when I was growing up too. So I mean, just people were just rampantly uneducated and ignorant and whatever. But you know, it's a lot different now, which I'm glad for some things, not so much for others, but hey, whatever. You know, I think the biggest thing that caused a problem for me, though, with the whole self-esteem and anxiety and it tying back into, you know, worse eating, worse sleeping, worse depression, worse mania all throughout these years, is I've had a tendency, and most, like, Christian conservative people that I've talked to say I'm mistaking friendship and love for friendship and this and that. No, like, I legitimately have had an issue a couple of times where I've loved my best friend in that type of way, and rather than just going for it or just, like, making it a point to walk away, I decided to be big simping in the corner type of thing, because I was convincing myself I was confused. I didn't actually love them that way. We were just supposed to be best friends. I'm straight. This isn't me. And the rejection just made me feel like I was never good enough for any woman. If I wasn't good enough for the woman that I loved, I wasn't good enough for women, period. And that's a whole ass, like, inferiority complex you have when you're embarking on a same-sex relationship, same-gender relationship, I think, because there's always going to be that heteronormative pressure from society to be like, well, you're going against nature and what we're supposed to do, so what did you expect? Of course you're going to be inadequate for that person. Your parts don't fit together and blah blah. Yeah, that whole thing. I was even told, like, at 12 years old, by someone I really cared about, that my first experiences like that are supposed to be with a boy, and mine weren't, so I was just like, what? Okay, my first kiss, my first this, my first that, were with a girl. I mean, and even, like, I think I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I'm gonna put a trigger warning here, like, stop the video if you don't want me, or if you don't want me to trigger something about, like, SA, rhymes with Chester, or, pole vault, I guess, rhyming words, you know what I mean, like, salty pole vault, and Chester the, yeah, okay, so we're gonna talk about molestation, alright, so I was probably, like, 7 or 8 years old, and I was going to this daycare, and, some older girls who were, like, maybe 3 or 4 years older than me at the time, like, they were just around that age where they could have, started to watch themselves legally, but they were still at this daycare, right? My mom didn't have us there, my brother and I, there for very long, but what happened was we had all gone swimming in the yard, like, we were not swimming and stuff, but we had bathing suits on, and we had gone swimming, whatever, we were supposed to change into our other clothes, into dry clothes and whatever, and these 2 older girls followed me inside, and, that wasn't weird or anything, like, that's a thing, like, just, oh, okay, go, you all go inside and get changed, like, and for some reason, they decided this was be a good opportunity to try and show me some the ways of like, I could only assume what they assumed sex was, I don't know, or I think maybe, God knows what had been done to them, but yeah, these girls touched me, like, we didn't put our clothes on, they started, like, rubbing me and touching me, and, like, rubbing themselves against me in the same areas, if that makes sense. I'm not gonna go into too much detail, because I'm talking about literal children, but, and I was a literal child, but I didn't say anything about it, like, what had actually happened. It didn't occur to me what had actually happened and what might have been happening to those girls at the time. Like, had they been experiencing something awful at their house or something like that. But no, I got in trouble and kicked out of that ladies' daycare program, and my mom actually took her to the state, I'm pretty sure, for illegally breeding dogs and having too many kids with just her in her house. Like, just, there was a whole, and my brother got injured while I was there and all, while we were there and whatever. We weren't there for very long at all. Like, my mom, this was like a trial thing for my mom. She didn't really, like, she had heard good things, but she didn't know this lady, and she was, she was state certified and whatever, but yeah, she was like basically running a puppy mill out of her home. And she, just, like, these girls, literally, freaking, they touched me and stuff and whatever, and they, like I said, they were several years older than me, but I didn't know anything about, like, when it came to, like, lesbian couples, I had never been exposed to that before. I was only aware of gay couples. And so for me, it was kind of a relief that this was happening, because then it made me feel less weird for having that type of, like, girl crush on girls, if that makes sense. And I didn't realize what had happened to me until I was an adult, basically. And so that's disturbing in so many ways. But yeah, I mean, I got in trouble because I was involved or whatever. But, I mean, I was coerced by 2 older girls, and I'm pretty sure they were sisters, to be honest. And pretty sure, looking back on it now, God help them both, because I'm pretty sure they were in a traumatizing situation with a guardian, to be honest. Like, they did things to me that they should have not known about at that age. Just straight up. You know, it wasn't the age of where, you know, like, us kids had, you know, a bunch of smartphones and computers and computer access and shit like that. Like, most of the people I knew, even in that age, still had dial-up, because broadband and stuff like that was really new and really expensive. So, I mean, yeah, just, I don't know where they would have learned that otherwise. And I hope that they're out there, and I hope they're doing okay. But I just think to that moment, and that was the first time anything like that had been done to me, and my mom had always told me, hey, if anybody touches you like that, you need to tell me immediately. And I refused to tell her the entire story, because I just didn't want her to fucking know, or, like, disown me for the fact that I wasn't upset about it. Like, I wasn't upset about it, and I didn't want her to know that. Like, I don't know, there was, I mean, because I had heard other kids, too, talk about, like, an uncle or whatever, and, oh, he likes other boys, so we don't get to talk to him anymore. Like, this kind of thing. So I knew that gay prejudice was a thing in the world. I just, you know, I just kept it to myself. But anyway, as I got older and my bipolar symptoms started solidifying more, I was that guy at the bar who was, you know, spending money on drinks and food and trying to impress chicks and this and that, and, like, just being a total, you know, just insecure mess. Just trying to be the coolest person in the room, sweetest person in the room, the strongest person in the room, the smartest person in the room, you know, but to try and impress chicks. But mostly it always ended up going south, or ended up just in a hetero relationship, because it was easier, and it was, you know, it's just how my life ended up being. It's not because I was, you know, using anybody as a front or anything like that. It just ended up being easier. Societal standards wise, it is easier as a bisexual person. You get that bi panic of, you don't know what to do with yourself. Like, you don't know, like, okay, like, can I still eat cheese and drink vegan milk? It's like one of those things. It seems like a paradox, because everyone's like, oh, well, why can't you just choose, or why can't, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. But I still have those moments where I'm like, am I really this, or am I just crazy? Probably both. But, I don't know. It's just, it's a lot. It's a lot. And straight people don't understand, like, when you know, being LGBT is not a mental illness, and having a mental illness does not make you gay, and all this other stuff. So a lot of people don't understand that, like, but they do coincide. They do coincide quite frequently, actually. Like, you know, it's just like, as natural as gay guys ending up on Project Runway, or, like, you know, that kind of thing. It's just a naturally occurring thing. We're more geared towards liberal things like the art, expressive things like the arts, because society deems clothes making acceptable to express yourself, or painting acceptable to express yourself. But if I wanted to paint like some a boob or something like that, that wouldn't be seen as weird because it's on a canvas and it's admiring the feminine form. But, you know, you start getting into the nitty-gritty and then that's not okay. I was gonna say, I said I haven't experienced homophobia for a while, but I did reveal my sexuality to a woman who recently, well, this was some months ago now, invited me to church, and I went to her church twice. And her pastor, he kind of freaked me out a little bit, not gonna lie. I mean, that church was struck by lightning too, come on. But, I was just honest with her, and I said, you know, if God's real, he didn't make me this way just to hate me or condemn me. I don't believe that. I don't believe he makes his creations to burn us like ants with a with like a magnifying glass. I almost said microscope. You know what I mean. I don't believe that. And she just stopped talking to me, and like, I kind of saw that coming, and I feel really sad about it. But I just feel most sad for her children because she's one of those very sheltering people, and it's like, they're gonna have to know how to function in the world. And if you keep them in this box, it's okay to guide them a certain way, morally and religiously. But those kind of kids pop off and die of ODs and shit like that because they've been so sheltered their whole life. It just worries me. But, hey, not everyone is a statistic. That just hurt. I don't know. I just thought about that. Yeah, I mean, my best advice, though, is, like, comparison is the thief of joy. I've always lived by that. Like, if you compare your life to somebody else's and you assume it's because of some colossal mistake that you've made, I guarantee the mistakes in your life are not as heinous and huge as you think they are. And you're not a mistake. And your gender identity and your sexuality are not a mistake. That is you. And it's nobody else's fucking business to piss in your bag of Skittles. So, that's my 2 cents. Does it make it easier? No. And they always say, give your parents time. Yeah, that doesn't always work. Some parents just will never come around. Find your family. Find your tribe. And until then, I'm gonna keep on tasting a rainbow, baby. I'll catch you guys in the next one.